Hi everyone, and welcome to today's session, iStore Meets Global Accessibility Awareness Day. I'm so excited to have everyone here joining us, and I'm really excited for today's session because I believe that it's going to be a powerful session, and I believe it's going to be an inspiring session. We have an unbelievable panel joining us today, and they're going to be sharing some valuable insights into the world of accessibility. For those of you that need the South African Sign Language interpreter, please ensure that you pin his video. And if you can only see me, I'm just going to switch to sign language just to help everybody. So just for everybody else, when you find the sign language videos, the South African Sign Language interpreter, you'll see his video, and it's labeled SASL interpreter. Click on his video at the top corner, as you can see in the image on the slide. Click that and say pin video. I see somebody saying there's no video available. At the top, if you see my video at the top, you'll see there'll be 3 blocks, a small block, a medium block, and then 3 blocks. Click on that one and the interpreter's video will appear underneath. Our team will help you as well in the process. So once you have the sign language interpreter, you can pin his video, and you can make it as big as you need it to be by resizing it in the bottom corner. So I'm really excited about today's session, and I'm hoping that you're going to be able to get the most out of today's session, and really you're really going to get inspired and motivated in the field of accessibility, because it is such an important topic that we need to be discussing as a whole. And I'm really hoping that you walk away feeling inspired. So without further ado, at the end of today's session, we are also going to open it up to have a Q&A session where you're going to be able to ask our panelists and myself any questions that you really need that you would love to ask. And we want to create this platform for exactly that, because this is what the power of accessibility is. It's allowing us to be open and honest with each other, and being able to share our experiences and ask questions that we need to have asked. So at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the bar that'll say chat, raise hand, and Q&A. If you click on the Q&A section, please pop in any questions that you would like to have asked, and we will answer them at the end of today's session. Also, please feel free to share about today's session using the hashtags #iStoreMeets and #GAAD, Global Accessibility Awareness Day. We want to hear your feedback. We want to see your feedback. So please feel free to share on social media using those hashtags. So again, let's start today's session. Let's officially open it. Welcome to iStore Meets Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Today's session is in partnership with iStore, Think Ahead, and iSchool Africa. And I'm really just grateful for these organizations that have created this platform to discuss this topic of accessibility. So before we get started, I'd really just like to take that opportunity to thank iStore, iSchool Africa, and Think Ahead for opening this platform up. And most of all, thank you for all joining today's session, for all being a part of today's session. I see some of you are still struggling to access the sign language interpreter, so I'm just going to bring the slide back up just quickly so that everyone can see this. If you need to access the sign language interpreter, you'll see my video, and at the top of my video you'll see 3 blocks. 1 block, then next to it a block with a block on top if you click on that one, you'll see the sign language interpreter's video will open underneath it. Okay, so as we continue, our team will keep answering those questions of those technical difficulties. We've got a great team that's on board today, and they will help you as we go along with the technical difficulties. So I'd like to introduce our panel today. We have a really unbelievable panel joining us today for iStore Meets Global Accessibility Awareness Day. And I'm really excited to have them here because I believe that each of them have a valuable insight that they can bring to today's session. But before we do, I was asked today to share what accessibility means to me. And the way that I see accessibility is allowing us to see the individual instead of seeing an unasked for label. And basically, when you summarize that, that is saying that when we're working in an environment with differently abled individuals, be it able-bodied and disabled-bodied, or people with different disabilities or different abilities, when we use accessibility as a tool, it allows us to be able to see past that disability and see someone's potential in spite of any of their different abilities that they might have. And I think today's panel is a true representation of exactly that. And I'm really excited to get started with them and have them share their stories. So without further ado, we're actually going to hand over to the panelists, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So let's do that. We can all turn panelists. You can turn your videos on now. And Renee, we're going to start with you. There you are.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Chelsea. I really appreciate it. So it's definitely an honor to be part of this and part of this day as well. I'm a Paralympic world record holder in the 400, and I have a left stump. I don't know if you can see. It's called Pity, and Pity can wiggle. One of my other passions is not just running, but teaching special needs. So yeah, I love using different ways to help them build confidence and also get their knowledge in different ways and give them accessibility. And Apple definitely has that opportunity to give to them.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee, and thank you for joining us today. Let's hand over to Terence. Terence, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm a well-accomplished swimmer. My name is Terence, and I'm looking forward to all your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Terence. So for those of you that didn't hear the interpreter in the beginning, Terence Parkin is an Olympic and a Deaflympic medalist. In fact, he's quite modest. He holds the world record for the most medals ever won at the Deaflympics. And he's very accomplished in swimming and cycling, and he's currently working for an amazing organization doing a water safety program and preventing drowning. And really, it's just amazing the work that Terence is doing. And then lastly, our last panelist will hand over to Jermaine.
Hey everyone, my name is Mage C, Jermaine, stage name Mage C. I am a music producer, sound engineer, songwriter. I just make music, and I'm grateful to be here today.
And again, Jermaine's also very modest. I've worked a lot with Jermaine in the past, and I'm incredibly grateful for his constant input and advice. Jermaine has worked with some unbelievable artists in South Africa, and he's really someone that you need to watch out for, because I believe that his name is going to be in big, bold lights very soon. So I'm excited to have everybody here with us. Thank you so much, Anrune, Terence, and Jermaine Mage C for joining us today in today's session. So we're going to get started asking our panelists some very vital questions around the topic of accessibility. And to open up today's session, we'll open with the very important question, seeing as it's Global Accessibility Awareness Day. What is accessibility to you in one sentence? And let's start with you, Anrune.
So, yeah, in one sense it's difficult because I speak a lot, but let's go. Accessibility for me is definitely different ways of doing something. Either if it's technology or visual things that you can use, it's definitely just a different way of adapting to solve the problem or to give that child or person opportunity to do something.
I love that. And I remember you were in an interview not so long ago, and you also spoke about not liking the term disabled, but preferring the term differently abled. And I think that that also sums up exactly what you're saying, is even though everybody on this panel today has some sort of a disability, you're not actually disabled, you're just differently abled. And I love that, the word different rather than disabled. So that's an amazing answer. Thank you, Anrune. Let's go over to Jermaine from Mage C.
So for me, I would say defining one sentence is really tough, but I would say being able to lead a full and complete life without being a burden to others, while still being able to take care of myself and my family.
That's awesome. So can I ask a follow-up question? Do you find your biggest challenge there being worrying about being a burden to others?
Without technology, yeah, definitely.
But with technology, you're able to overcome that barrier.
Yeah, definitely. You see, technology has allowed me to indulge my curiosity, to the nth degree. Um, a lot of times, you know, I, for for example, like trying to figure out how to make music is where it all started. When I heard that there was a thing like music and that I could actually be a part of it, that's where the curiosity began. You know, as a kid, I was always interested in figuring out how to do the same things sighted people do. But when music came along, it really changed my perspective on everything, because I realized that if there's one thing that puts me on the same level playing field as a sighted person, it's audio, anything to do with audio. And I just needed to figure out how to make those things work for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. And then our last panelist, Terence, would you like to summarize for you in as much of a one sentence as you can get it into, what does accessibility mean for you?
Accessibility means for me many things. First of all, technology, like Jermaine said, really assists me mostly. Accessibility for deaf people, creates confidence in deaf people. They gain information through accessibility. They use technology like their iPhones, Google, etc. Many people, when they do not get access to information, can use technology like the deaf community to get information. And that is what is impressive about technology. As a deaf person, in the olden days, you had to ask your parents continuously, please can you ask a friend of mine to phone for me on the old landlines? I couldn't do it myself. Now, you've got a video. You do it quite, first of all, they had faxes, and now we've got SMSs. Technology is wonderful. The good experience is, being a disabled person, people with different abilities, basically, everybody's got the same brain. Everybody's equally important. Everybody is capacitated differently, but have the same knowledge. And that's what makes me excited to be here today.
I love what you're saying, and I think that's probably the most important thing that for people to grasp is it doesn't matter if you are deaf. It doesn't mean that you're intellectually impaired. If you're blind, you're not intellectually impaired. If you've got a physical disability, you're not intellectually impaired. So education, and especially special needs education as a whole, it should be the same curriculum that we're doing, because the mental capability is equal. It's just one of our senses is different. And I think that's such a valuable tool. I just want to ask Terence, would you say potentially the biggest barrier within the deaf community is exactly what you're saying, access to information?
Well, yeah, so up to now, the biggest barrier, for example, is the television. They do not have subtitles. That is a barrier for me. That's the biggest barrier, especially. It's the one thing we need to improve in South Africa. We need to get subtitles on. And I really do hope, with technology improving, especially with iPhones and Apple, that you can link the technology to put an iPhone in front of a TV to convert whatever they say into subtitles. I'll be very happy if that can be done.
That's a great tip, and you should definitely email someone about that, because I think that would be a great accessibility tool and great accessibility feature. Okay, so moving on to the next question for our panelists. We'll start with Jermaine with this one, but for all of you as a whole, as individuals representing the disabled communities of South Africa, because each of you represent a unique a community within the disabled communities of South Africa. But what would you say the importance of integrating disabled individuals and able-bodied individuals into the same either workspace environment, school environment, creating inclusive environments that it doesn't matter what your disability is, but it matters who you are as an individual? Why do you think we should be creating those inclusive environments? And we'll start with you, Jermaine.
Well, I can answer this question on several different fronts. What Terence was saying about subtitling and TV, he actually has a point. It's actually quite shocking to me that in 2020, where all these things such as subtitling for deaf people and descriptive audio for individuals such as myself is fully and ready available, yet our own carriers, whether it be satellite TV or theater chains like Ster-Kinekor, don't see the need to include this in their cinemas or when we're watching paid TV, which is actually more shocking and actually a heavily discriminative towards people with disabilities. Because it's not like the technology doesn't exist. The technology exists. It's the people who actually have access to these things who are not either aware of what they're doing or just simply do not seem to be interested in assisting people with disabilities. The need to include us in society is extremely important because, for example, the setup that I have running here today allows me to be blind, as I should be, and allows me to do what any other person would be able to do in a studio session. I can do almost anything a sighted person can do, and I should be on par. I should be allowed to compete on par with them, because at the end of the day, the fact that I cannot see doesn't mean that I cannot do anything for myself. It just means that I need assistance in doing certain things. And it's not about getting a handout. It's not about shame. Let's feel sorry for the disabled people. Let's feel sorry for the poor blind people. No. All we need is the opportunity to be able to make something of ourselves. And through the use of technology, for example, I would not even be able, if you remove technology, I don't think I can compete or work in the field that I'm working in. I don't know how I would be able to make a living for myself.
I remember the one time we were chatting and you said to me, you remember when you were at school before you had technology and you had to carry around all these big books in Braille, and Braille books are like 10 times bigger than normal books. And now you can just have an iPad that has all of your books and use VoiceOver, and it's not hurting your back. It's not destroying, how many bags you have to go through. It's all of a sudden replacing all of those things. Yeah.
I mean, when I got to university and I had to study a Mozart score, mind you, it's 93 volumes. That is about as thick as one of the Harry Potter books. Just that there are 93 of them. How do you carry around a 93 volume score in a book bag? It's things such as those that technology has quickened. I cannot sit in a classroom and read through a 90 volume score to find bar 476 when a sighted person can sit and just find it on a piece of paper or scroll through it on their iPad. Now I can do that.
That's awesome.
I can walk around with 50 different pieces of music on one device and have access to them as soon as I need to.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. Okay, so we're going to ask the same question to Anne-Renee. What is the importance of creating inclusive environments using accessibility?
That's very important. I think so many kids, so many people miss out on opportunities of learning, of developing and growing. And it comes close to my heart that as a special need teacher, that some kids that struggle, you kind of put them aside and say, you know what, they can't do it, so let's just leave that, instead of saying, you know what, we can make it different, we can have a different way of teaching and learning them. So equality and opportunities is equal. It needs to be equal, and if we can use everything we can to help people to grow and develop into the best version they can be, and gain knowledge of all the resources we can give them, it's definitely something really important and close to my heart to create opportunities as a teacher, and to also inspire other special need teachers out there that maybe it is a different way, and maybe you're going to put extra hours in to make sure that that kid gets to where he needs to. But at the end of the day, it's going to be so much worth it to see that person grow and to help them in their different way that they need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're quite a unique individual in that you're disabled yourself because of your arm, but at the same time you are so passionate about autism in particular, and you taught at a school for children with autism, and you're so passionate about it. And I remember when we were chatting, you said something. You said you didn't think that you could teach children with other disabilities because you were disabled yourself. So I think maybe the first step actually to accessibility is overcoming that mindset of yourself for being a disabled individual, and actually changing your own mindset, going, I actually can do it. And I think that's potentially the biggest barrier that we all face, is believing in yourself to eventually make an impact in the lives of others. I don't know if you could add anything to that, or if you would add anything to that.
No, definitely. When we chatted, that was definitely came up, and I had a concern that what did the parents think? You know, what their teacher is disabled. How is she going to be able to teach my kid that has different needs? And that's exactly where the equality comes in. And we need to trust each other and know, you know what, she's got the heart, she's got the passion, and she's going to make sure that she can help that kid where he or she needs to. And that's the most important part. And that's really cool that we all are so different today. And we all have different parts in using technology and using our passions and things that we like and love to help people with having a normal life and doing things normal with technology.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And Terence, for yourself, what would you say the importance of creating inclusive environments so that deaf individuals and hearing individuals can socialize together, work together, and participate in life together? What would you say the importance of that is?
It is important, you know, because it's changing the mindsets. You know, a lot of people have self-pity, and when they do have the hearing, people will look onto this person with a disability and feel sorry for them. You should integrate, you should create the inclusive environment to enable them to have the confidence, like the deaf community, for them to get information. The hearing community can hear everything, they get information everywhere. But the deaf community, it is completely different. Everything they obtain is through a visual means. They have to watch everything. So there's a limitation to that, a limitation to information, where the hearing and the deaf community, if you integrate the two, bring the two together, the hearing community can hear something, share the information with the deaf community, and the deaf can share sign language with them, and together we can develop together. For many years, it's not been easy for the deaf community, and we've been fighting for many years. But I must say, you know, even with the advances of technology, it has improved the way we access information. And yes, it is important for us to integrate, to be inclusive, to work together. And as people living with disabilities, we have to stand up for ourselves and fight for what we need. It's not always easy, but it will be nice to have everybody work together.
I love what you're saying. I think what you're saying is so powerful, and I think as a whole, when we integrate disabled-bodied and able-bodied communities, it removes that barrier. There's no longer an us and them, it's just an us. And exactly what you're saying, it's equal access to opportunity, equal access to education, equal access to information. And that starts when we have an integrated environment, because the reason that there are still barriers, accessibility barriers, is because able-bodied people aren't aware of the barriers. However, when we integrate the communities, all of a sudden, everybody is aware of the barriers that need to be addressed. And I love that. I love what you're saying. And just to touch on what you were saying, I know in 2018, finally, South African Sign Language was recognized as an official school subject. Before that, deaf children couldn't take South African Sign Language as their home language. So there is progress being made in South Africa in terms of South African Sign Language. What would you say the next step is? Would you say the next step is potentially getting SASL as the 12th official language?
That will be fantastic. I mean, it will be really great. You know, the deaf community will have then more confidence to access the workplace if it's official. We have to get it official. I think it's almost there. It's about 80%. They still have to promulgate it. I did hear that it's almost there. So let's hope and that they will enact it. And I'm looking forward to that, I hope.
Awesome, awesome. And so we're going to move on to the next question. And I'm going to start with you, Terence, because I feel like it could continue with what you're saying. But what would you say your favorite accessibility feature or your favorite accessibility app that can be used to create accessible environments? And let's start with exactly what you're saying. Is there somewhere that an app that people can go and download and learn South African Sign Language?
Yes, you know, yeah, you have to learn. I know sign language myself, but the app that I mostly use, basically, to communicate. And I think Chelsea will put up a presentation to show you what app do I
Chelsea
use.
Williamson has started screen share.
I'm sorry, I'm just lost Terence here there at the moment. That's the interpreter speaking. I just need to get him back in. I'm sorry, Terence, I lost you. Okay, let's start again. Interpreter lost you. Okay, this specific app basically is a setting on the iPad. You go
From
into
Martin Maitland to all panelists, we can't see Terence. Martin Maitland to everyone, we can't see Terence.
Can you guys see me? Can I continue?
Can't say.
Okay, if you click on the settings in the iPad, you will see there's an accessibility function within the settings, and you will have to click on speech, and if you click that and you activate it, it will then allow, that's when I use it specifically. If you put those two buttons on within the settings, that's all you need on an iPad. Then you would take, you know, whether you use iPad or notes or anything, you can type anything you want as a deaf person. You can type anything that you want as a deaf person, and you use two fingers to
I'll
drag
have a
from
large
top of the
coffee,
screen
please.
downwards, and it will talk for you, which is quite interesting. It will talk for you. And then whatever the person is saying, you can just click on the little microphone down at the keyboard. You click on the little microphone. When that person is speaking, it will actually convert whatever he's saying in text.
That will be 50 Rand. Thank you.
You will see it will convert into text, and that's brilliant. But that's the same, it happens in WhatsApp. You drag your two fingers down and you can use WhatsApp to communicate. You know, a lot of people, you know, have, you know, problems. Some people have a problem with their hands that they can't use WhatsApp to type a message for you, but they can use the little microphone and the keyboard, speak into it, and then it will convert text to them. So it's also a way of creating access, and I use it quite a lot.
That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that with us, Terence. I think, especially in light of COVID-19, we know that potentially a huge barrier that's being faced in the deaf communities is that individuals with the face masks were not able to lip read anymore, and it makes communication very difficult at the moment. And using this very simple tool, it allows ease of communication, and when it's done at a safe social distance, it allows individuals to be able to effectively communicate what they need to have communicated. So that's really awesome, and thank you so much for sharing that.
That definitely works well for it, yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Terence. Next, let's go over to Andrene. Andrene, do you want to share on your favorite app accessibility app or accessibility feature?
Yes, definitely. As a teacher in the special needs school, working with autism kids and kids that have special needs and are different. We all are different and unique in such an incredible way. And it's important that we all must know that there's only one person of you. And what helped me quite a lot was this app is some autistic kids and a lot of kids need structure and they need some guidance with what's happening next. If you bombard a kid with quickly taking something away from them while they're still busy doing it, it kind of can make them frustrated if they're not verbal or if they're not communicated. So this is a really cool app. So basically what you do is you can take pictures of your school, of when it's time when you're going to bed, when you're waiting for the bus, or if it's time to leave with the car. Also, if you're going to someone else's house, sorry, I'm Afrikaans. If you go to someone else's house, then you can take a picture of their house, how it looks, describe the rooms, where you're going to be in. A lot of autistic kids struggle to get comfortable in the space, so to make that space safe, to give them a visual what you're going to, where you're going to take them and what they're going to do. So this works really great, and also it helps to kind of take the barrier from not being verbal when they learn, especially when you want to kind of learn words and how they look as well. So instance like the car, to learn that that's a car, to learn to pronounce the sounds and that. So this is a really cool app that I love using for them, and it gives them confidence as well. They want to use it and show you what's next. So that's really cool, interactive thing. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Anune. And it's really great to have your input, especially in the field of autism. I think that there are so many valuable autistic apps that are available out there. And it's really important for everyone to know that there are those apps available, because I think sometimes people struggle without knowing that just simply downloading these apps can really help children, especially during this time in lockdown when they don't have access to therapists and teachers and all of that.
Chelsea Williamson has stopped screen share.
So I'm going to hand over the last one to Jermaine. And Jermaine is actually going to share his screen, and he's going to share what he does with his...
From Marcin Nietlin to all panelists, again. Marcin Nietlin to everyone, again.
That's not me. Not yet, anyway. Thanks, Chelsea.
Mike Nortley has joined the meeting.
What I'm gonna do first, before I start, let me explain. The most useful thing I have at my disposal that allows me to do pretty much everything is something that's built into macOS and is called VoiceOver. VoiceOver is a screen reader that converts whatever is written, whatever is on screen into audible feedback. I'm just enabling it, and then you should be able to hear everything I hear if it decides to work. I also have to point out that it's quite a complex process to have to figure this out by yourself without having any sight, and that actually makes the world's difference when you need to figure out how things work and how to get them to work the way that you want them to work. For example,
press universe in dialogue. Confirm.
I'm not sure if anyone can hear that,
Zoom.us.
but it should be
Zoom.us.
giving you feedback. And what I am now going to attempt to do
VoiceOver Finder Pro Tools
is to share a Pro Tools window with you.
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools is a digital audio workstation that I use for all my mixing, recording audio, and for playing around. One thing I will say, just one point on accessibility, something like the Zoom platform again, is to some degree extremely accessible, and in other areas not.
Turn off original sound.
Things tend to disappear. Like one moment I'll have access to the window where I can share audio, and the next minute I don't.
Original sound image. Chelsea, mute my audio
So
button.
that's the other thing that
Audio sub
I
menu.
think we need to
click
pay
this button.
attention to
Stop video.
is
Video sub menu.
that
Close. Open chat
sometimes
panel. Share screen button.
understanding accessibility means being patient as well, because I think every one of the panelists here can identify with me when I say that when people don't understand a disability, it tends to make them even seem more impatient than they should be.
Sharing share computer sound. Uncheck. Optimize screen share
Because
for share computer. Check share
at the end of the day,
sharing screen list box.
I think in
Collection.
order for us to understand each other or anyone, we need to be patient and we need to be willing to learn from them.
Whiteboard. iPhone
It's
slash
very
iPhone.
challenging
Pro Tools.
to be in a world where you have to figure out how to make the world work according to what works for you, and then have to explain. The reason
Pro Tools. Mix.
I'm explaining this to you,
Out. Share.
A,
Pro
to
Tools.
buy
Mix.
myself time,
You
which I
have
no
stopped.
longer need,
Your
and B,
screen sharing is paused. You are screen sharing.
System dialog.
it's a realistic
Zoom.us has new system.
outlook.
Zoom.us.
I'm now sharing
Voiceover utility. Finder. Zoom.u. Pro Tools.
my Pro Tools window.
Pro Tools.
I'm just
Mix.
moving there.
Minus 16.1 dB.
And what I have open in front of me is the
Aux-
mix window in Pro Tools that allows me to interact with different tracks and settings, and can basically, what VoiceOver is doing is telling me when I move from one track to another, it can read out different options for me. For example, I can find out
Verse underscore
if
one.
a track
verse,
has
verse
been,
underscore one. Audio track.
okay, so this is an
Verse
example.
underscore one. Audio track.
BU to everyone. This is phenomenal. Clapping hands. Clapping
Thank you so
hands. Clapping hands.
So this allows me then to, for example, to see if a track is armed or not.
Okay.
Disarm safe.
So
Disarm
no,
safe.
this track is not armed.
Verse
You
of
know,
underscore one. Audio track.
What
To
it
disarm
also
safe.
allows me to do is to go through, what
Loop to everyone. Anyway, we can keep interpreter visible at all times.
For those of you can see, it really matters. The other thing I'd like to point out is, along with VoiceOver, I'm also using something called Keyboard Maestro. And what Keyboard Maestro does is it works hand in hand with VoiceOver, that makes apps that wouldn't necessarily be accessible out of the box more accessible to us, which means instead of pressing 3 key commands to do the same thing, I can press 1 and get the same result. And that also matters in terms of speeding up feedback.
Outro under.
Of course, you can play audio, you can
Window.
stop, you can
Okay
you can do all the
Press
things
OK
that you
button.
normally would do. And
Mix.
if I need to hand over the session to, say, another sighted engineer who's working with me,
Nicholas Chukwudu to everyone. Absolutely phenomenal. Mike Naughty to everyone. Hi Luke. If you navigate to the interpreter's video and click on the, then click pin video. Marson Nyetland to everyone. Every time there's a screen share, the deaf don't have access.
to work hand in hand with each other, which 20 years ago, not even 20 years ago, 10 years ago, this wasn't possible. Mind you, I figured how to do all of this, for example, share this screen with
Marson Nyetland to everyone. There's no way to pin the video. His is a webinar. We can't pin videos. Martha Marie Cohn to everyone. Amazing.
6 years old. So it just goes to show what I could do with technology from 6 years ago. Imagine what I could do if I had access to all the technology that I would need. And I don't think this changes. I think this pushes everyone forward, not really causing a challenge, especially for employers who are concerned about integrating, like myself or like Terence or like Anne-Renee into whatever environment they need to be in. We simply just need to understand the technology. And with guys like Avid and Apple's own Logic, creating...
Sam to everyone. Mind-blowing onwards and
I think
upwards.
it just comes to a point where,
Close
we need to come together.
Mix. Ice. 00.
I will attempt to play audio. However, there's quite a lot happening in this session, but it actually works for one. And now you can all hear what I'm hearing in real time. This is just something I was working on before we started the session. It's an up-and-coming artist that I've been working with.
Sam to everyone. Great tunes made JC. Michaela to everyone. At Nicholas, how are you? Regards, Michaela.
Basically, that's the point. I could. And
Kim Rundle to everyone. For autistics, this drives Sammy crazy, so it's a challenging having noises all the time.
And yes, it is challenging having noises all the time. I know. But you also, like, again, challenge for us because we need to decipher everything all at once. But yeah, thanks for allowing me to share your screen or to steal your screen, Chelsea. You are allowed to kick me off. I will allow that.
Videos.
But thanks so much. I'm glad I can share this with you.
View options button.
You know, because I mean, this is just
Space
one
Zoom.us
of
containing
the billions of apps and ways that we use to make things accessible to us.
That's awesome, and it's really great to see how, I mean, each of you are different. I mean, we've got Terrence who uses accessibility features to help communicate for deaf individuals and hearing individuals. Again, allowing that inclusivity of it doesn't.
From Sneak Sapik to Lather to everyone. This is amazing, but I am worried that they must introduce more for autistic kids. As parents, we are really frustrated as we all know autism has no cure. Senix.
There we go. Sorry. Jermaine, is your voiceover off?
It will be now.
Voiceover off.
Ah, there we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so perfect. So we've got Terrence who uses accessibility features for communication. We've got Anne-Renee who uses amazing apps for autistic children in and out of the classroom. And we've got Jermaine who uses accessibility features to empower himself and do what he does. And what he does is amazing. And it's really exciting to see how people can do this. And I think in the field that I'm in particular, I often get asked this question: why do I promote Apple products? Why do I promote iPad and MacBook? And when I was interviewing Jermaine, I'm actually going to quote Jermaine here. He said, because Mac just works. And that would be quite a summary of it. But honestly, I fundamentally believe when you look at organizations, if you look at what the top of an organization is saying, that's what filters down. And you'll know in your company or in your organization, whatever the CEO or whatever the head of your company says, whatever their values are, is what your company as a whole will say. And I love this quote by Tim Cook. He says, Apple is founded on giving people power to create things, to do things that they couldn't do without these tools. We've always viewed accessibility as a human right. And just like human rights are for everyone, we want our products to be to be accessible to everyone. And I love that. And I love that Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, is promoting accessibility. When they run Everyone Can Code programs in deaf and blind schools, he's there, he's promoting it, he's on the forefront of it, and he really does value it. And that is why we promote Apple and accessibility. And I'm just going to show you a very short video. It does have audio descriptions in it, so everyone can view it, and the interpreter will interpret the video. But this is just a short video to give you a glimpse into more of the accessibility features that are available on all of Apple's devices, including MacBooks, iPads, Apple Watches, and so forth.
In a kitchen, we move to an open bedroom door. In the bedroom, Sadie Paulson is reflected in a mirror. A caregiver brushes her hair, then helps her into a blouse.
People think that having a disability is a barrier.
Sadie sits at a desk working with an iMac. She moves her head to operate switches on her headrest.
But that's not the way I see it.
Now, a young man uses sign language on a FaceTime call.
You can catch up with friends.
A young woman signs back. Now a family picnics.
Ready?
You can capture a moment with your family.
One face, small face, focus lock.
A blind man takes a photo with an iPhone.
And you can start the day bright and early.
A woman lies in bed using an iPhone app to open motorized curtains and turn on her lights. She lowers herself into a
You
wheelchair.
can take a trip to somewhere new.
A man hikes with friends. Now a close-up of his hearing aid. He stops to select the outdoor setting on his iPhone.
3 miles
to the summit.
A boy reads a book on an iPad in
You
class.
can concentrate on every word of a story.
A bird began to sing. Jack opened his eyes.
An athlete selects outdoor wheelchair workout on her Apple
You
Watch.
can take the long way home.
A beach at sunset. The athlete pushes her wheelchair aggressively down a paved path, quickly gaining speed. Then the footage rewinds, revealing that it's being edited in Final Cut Pro.
Or edit a film like this one.
We zoom out to reveal Sadie editing the film. She uses her head to use switch control, navigating an on-screen keyboard.
When technology is designed for everyone,
She drags a clip and plays the film.
it lets anyone do what they love, including me.
Sadie laughs. Then a gray Apple logo appears on a white background. The logo disappears.
I love that video, and I really do think that that video sums up some of the accessibility features that Apple offers. And all of these accessibility features, Terrence touched on one, Jermaine touched on another. They're all available in your devices. When you open up the settings menu, you will see all of these accessibility features. And I really hope that you can unpack them. And if you need any help with them, you're obviously welcome to contact us during this time, because so the company that today is partnered with and is Think Ahead, and we are dedicated to helping all educators during this time. So if you need any help during this time, please feel free to email us at inquiries@thinkahead.co.za, and we're more than happy to help you with your accessibility features and understanding them. And we've also got an unbelievable Facebook group that we also post tips and advice on all of these sessions and all of these topics on. And yeah, so I just want to, before we wrap up today's session, I really want to thank all of the panelists. And whilst we're wrapping up, I really want to give this opportunity to please ask any questions that you would like to have asked. We've got a couple, and I'm going to ask them now to our panelists, but you please click on that Q&A bar at the bottom of your screen so that we can ask these questions to our panelists, and just have that opportunity for you to have any of those burning questions that you might have, ask them and direct them at our panelists, because that is, like what we said, that is the whole purpose of today's session. So we're really, really grateful that we have this platform and that we have all these features available on the Apple platform for free in your accessibility menu. So I'm going to have a look. I've had a look at some of these questions, and the one that I saw that was directed at Terrence will open with a light-hearted question. Terrence, we're having some of the attendees asking if you'd be willing to stay in contact with them. And if they would like to get in contact with you, could they find you on Facebook and message you? Terrence, how could people get in contact with you after today's session?
They're more than welcome to contact me. That is fine. They can contact me via Facebook. Unfortunately, I cannot accept them as friends because it's full. All my followers is, at followers is a maximum capacity, but they're welcome to contact me.
Okay, perfect. That's really, really.
They can contact me via Facebook Messenger. I'm quite flexible with that.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just scrolling through. There's a lot of comments, some really, really great comments, some other comments. Let's have a look. Since differently abled people have been in the community for years, we don't have formal representation in the government cabinets that are representatives for differently abled people, and ensuring that they have same access to everything that able-bodied people have. So I think what that question is asking is, do you think that it's important that we have some sort of formal representation in the government cabinets that are representing the disabled communities? And I think let's ask that question to Anne-Renee.
Yes, I actually read that question and I thought we all have a strong belief that disabilities are not equal in our country, and there's a big need to create awareness, to create a space where there is someone that can drive this concern that we all have, especially in schools. In communities, a lot of people that are with disabilities, they don't have a place. So I think it's definitely something that is a really big structure in terms of community, in terms of schools, that we need to create. I'm not sure, and I'm being honest, I'm not sure if there is a person or someone that drives this, but it will be something good, and I would also be, if the opportunity comes, be part of that, to invest in our country and disabled kids, to help create space for knowledge, awareness, and different ways of teaching as well, because I think that's also a big need. I also realized as a teacher, I didn't study special needs, but I have a big passion for it. So many people, I think that needs to be included when you study teaching, that special needs as a subject or whatever needs to be taken into, and so that we can adapt and be inclusive, because that's the whole priority South Africa drives, is to be inclusive in classrooms and also in working spaces, but we're not actually putting that into action. So it's definitely something important that we need to, but I will be keen if someone knows that, because I'm being honest, I don't know of someone driving that, but it's definitely a concern that we don't have a representative to help to build on this disability community that we actually really, really need. Hope that answers the question. Sorry.
No, it does. It does. I'm going to open that question to Terence and Jermaine as well. Do either of you have anything that you'd like to add with regards to having government representation in a form of a disabled individual?
Well, there's one name that I can give you.
Okay.
There's there's a lady called Miss Henrietta Bohopani. She is within the government structures. I'm not sure of what her position is, but I went to school with her partially sighted daughter.
Oh, wow.
And she was very involved with trying to make the structures of government more keenly aware and more sensitive to the fact that we are misrepresented. But, I think there's only so much that one voice can do. I think it's very important for us as a disabled community to find a way of building a platform to come together, because I hear from a lot of us that we are all facing the same challenge, but I often find that we are not speaking up when we need to speak up, but that also comes from allowing our own families to tell us, we can or we cannot, instead of, embracing our own disability. I think the most empowering thing any disabled person can do is learning how they would like to be treated and standing up for themselves, especially in structures of family, and because that's where it begins. I mean, I have siblings, I have family members, but you would not believe that in the 29 years I've spent on this earth, they still don't know how to deal with me as Jermaine and being a blind person. They still don't know. So it's on us to create a platform and also to educate those around us.
That's great, and I think it definitely starts with that, is the education, creating awareness and starting to create those inclusive environments on a small scale and letting that filter through to the government level. I really agree with what you're saying, Jermaine. And then we got another question from Jamie. Jamie was talking about, Jermaine, you mentioned some of the subtitles and audio descriptions that aren't really available. Let's direct this at Terence. Do you have any accessibility problems or issues that you find in the South African theatre industry?
Oh, the problem is basically, it all depends. Sometimes, because the people are visual, we do go to theatre, but we have theatre within the deaf community. But when the hearing community have a theatre show or something, the deaf can enjoy it by looking at the physical movement, but not enjoying the dialogue because it's not accessible for them. But they do enjoy the visual dancing and the performances. They won't be able to enjoy the songs though. But when you go into the deaf community and their theatre shows, the deaf people really enjoy that because there's sign language, there's acting and dance and moving, which is completely different. So yes, that's our situation.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think just from a personal point of view, I remember when I was studying sign language at university, my one friend took me to the Deaf Club in Bedford View, and I will never forget it. It was the strangest experience. There was no sound. Everyone was communicating in sign language, and I went and I sat and I got a drink, and then all of a sudden someone blew like a really loud horn, and I was the only person who turned around and looked at the horn, and it was their way of finding out who the hearing people were, so they could identify it. But it was the strangest and most surreal experience of my life. And I think it's important that we know that we all just enjoy things differently, and that's okay. And just finding ways that we can create the theatre world to be accessible. I know overseas, it doesn't matter if it's a music festival or a theatre show, there's always a sign language interpreter. And I think that that's such a valuable tool to have within the deaf communities. So thank you for sharing your experience, Terence. So we'll answer one more question, and we've got a question here from Candice. So Candice is saying here, are differently abled individuals who have knowledge of the current technology that we've discussed, for example, in today's session, are they going around, are you, for example, talking about it to doctors who are diagnosing in the field or individuals who are working in the field? So are we as individuals of the disabled community talking about the technology that's available out there? And let's go to you, Anne-Renee.
Yes, definitely in the community. I'm in Durbanville area, in Cape Town, and the school that I'm at was started by 3 OTs and 1 I don't know in English what it is, play therapist. There we go. Sorry, I was thinking Afrikaans spelled that a bit, and they all had the passion to help. They have so much knowledge, and they have so many devices that they do use, and they actually kind of create awareness amongst us as teachers to do a lot of courses as well, a lot of places where we can learn different ways and interact with people that are autistic as well, that are older now, and share their experiences and kind of have that connection with what helped them as well. And a lot of those people also would share some of the devices and apps and ways of teaching that help them quite a lot. Like example, I have a very loud voice. So when I taught, every time I walk into that door, I needed to remind myself that I need to calm down. I need to speak in a softer and a lower tone voice, because that's what ticks autistic kids, is too many loud. It depends. But yes, that's definitely, they do share it. But I think there is definitely a platform that can be created to share it, not just in Durbanville, but around the countries, that OT can share it with doctors, and that so many people give a diagnosis immediately, and they say that's the problem, but unfortunately you cannot diagnose and say that is a problem. Unfortunately, it needs to be handled very carefully, and you cannot just say anybody's autistic. It needs to go through a lot of tests, and the right people needs to be encountered when dealing with someone that has special needs. And I think that's very important to share the information here amongst that. I know there is a lot of platforms to do that, but I don't think it's distributed amongst rural areas and areas that it needs to. And that's where we can definitely help that as well, let it grow.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne-Renee. And we're unfortunately we're out of time, so I'm gonna have to end today's session. And I'm just gonna end it by saying thank you again so much for iStore and iSchool Africa and Think Ahead for creating this platform to discuss the topic of accessibility. And thank you so much for our unbelievable panelists who have joined today's session. I'm really grateful for you. Your insight and your knowledge has been incredibly valuable. For those of you that have joined today's session, if you're interested in finding out more about the accessibility features that are available on your iPad, your iPhone, your MacBook, you're welcome to head over to myistore.co.za/meets. And when you get there, you'll see this menu will show. When you click on the accessibility menu, all of the sessions relating to accessibility features will be viewed there. And then you can see we've got some other unbelievable sessions around video photography, coding and education, music, and so forth. And the coding and education one is also with Think Ahead. We've got some really great coding programs. We've got some sessions with some ADEs, and we'd love to have you join some more sessions. All of our sessions are available for free. So head on over to the My iStore/meets website and book your next ticket for your next event. And just from my side, I want to thank you for joining. Thank you to each and every single attendee for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join in today's session. Like I said, my name is Chelsea Williamson, and I'm really grateful to have had this opportunity to talk about these valuable features with you this Global Accessibility Awareness Day. So without further ado, if you have any more questions, you're welcome to email me. My email is on the screen, and I emailed you before the session, so you will have my email address. You're welcome to get in contact with me and ask any further questions that you might have. So we're going to be ending today's session, and I see a lot of comments coming in saying thank you for joining us. Thank you for having the conversation. Yes, Jermaine?
I'm just saying thank you to everyone. Thank you for giving us your time and for actually having the patience and the ability to see a perspective other than your own, because that grows you. So thank you for giving yourself an opportunity to learn something.
Thank you, Jermaine. And Terence, do you have any closing words?
Oh, yes, yeah. Thank you as well. It was really important today's session, you know, giving feedback about accessibility, creating awareness about technology, and it's important information. I am so amazed and aware now about how technology is helping people that are not sighted. And I'm very impressed with this. Thank you so much for making me part of this. Thank you. And also thank you for all the panelists, you know, for supporting each other in this whole endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Renee.
Sure, thank you so much. That video had me in tears. I'm someone that's very emotional. I wear my heart on my sleeves. It was such a great honor to also be part of all of, and hear some of the panelists and what apps they use, and also a bit about their story. So it was really, really special. And I'm excited. I told when we had our mock, I really want to learn to do, to kind of learn, well, now I can't even say the word, to learn to do that as well, and to greet. Sign language, thank you. I'm thinking in Afrikaans now, to use sign language and to also break that barrier as well for me. And with one hand, I always thought, how is that going to be possible? But I know that being disabled, there are ways, and I would love to learn that. And it's, it's amazing to know that there's so many ways that we can reach out to people and help them in so many different ways. And thank you for everybody that put this time aside to watch us. And sorry for all my errors I just made, but I'm Afrikaans and I do make my own words and I create my own things. So that's just part of who I am and what I am. So it was really great. Thank you, Chelsea, and also the interpreter and everybody being part of this. It was really, really cool.
Awesome. And then, of course, lastly, thank you to Johnny, our South African Sign Language interpreter. I really know that today's session was accessible because you joined us. So thank you, Johnny, as well. So that's all for today. I'm going to release everybody to go and enjoy the rest of their Global Accessibility Awareness Day. I hope that you leave feeling inspired and motivated to create accessible environments within your workspace, within your school space, and within your communities. We look forward to seeing you at our new upcoming sessions, and we'll be in contact with you soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.